bleed green? Are you an ultimate Eagles football fan? Well, you're in the right place. This is Birds 365, hosted by the new Mac and Mac, Jody McDonald and John McMullen.
Here we go!
Who collectively have covered and talked about more than 50 plus years of Eagles football. Kick off your day with Birds 365. You'll get debate.
We love to argue.
You'll get the real story from inside the locker room. And you'll hear from some of the great football minds from around the region. You're about to become an Eagles insider. Get in the game. Join Jody Mack and Johnny Mack and join the football community that flocks to Birds 365. Birds 365 starts right now.
Welcome to the NFL. Let's go! Let's go! Go!
And a good morning. Thursday, final regular season edition of Birds 365. You got Mac and Mac, John McMullen, Jody McDonald here with you. We've got two good guests, two regular guys, two guys you know well enough. Mike Gill switching to Thursday for us, doing us a solid. He'll join us in hour number one, and then Easy Ed Kratz in hour number two. We haven't had Eddie on in a couple weeks. First time in 2024 for him. So you got two good guests coming. You want to stay right here with McMullen and McDonald. Johnny Mac, all is well with the world, according to A.J. Brown. After yesterday's media gathering for about 15, 20 minutes in the Eagle locker room. Good on A.J. A.J. takes grief when A.J. acts up. So when A.J. does what's right, I think you got to give him credit. And yesterday, not only did he wrap his arms around his coaching staff, he did his teammates as well. He shared the, hey, everybody's frustrated point of view, which I agree with. AJ's just a little bit more demonstrative about it than anybody else. I think it helped the team yesterday. Agree or disagree?
Yeah, I agree. It certainly doesn't hurt. Now, I got a lot of, I don't know if you did, Jody, but I got a lot of, oh, this will turn the Eagles season around. I go, it's a press conference. What are you talking about? But yeah, I think it's, he should have spoken, and he explained that he thought he was doing the right thing and realized that, his teammates had to pick up the mantle because we're all asking them, what's going on with AJ? So he kind of came to that, epiphany and got back to work, so to speak. So from that standpoint, yeah, I think it's a positive. Do I think it's going to turn the season around? No, I think, that's going to come on the field if it comes at all. And similar to what AJ said, when he was protecting the coaches, they ain't wearing cleats, players. And he brought up specifically the play in the Arizona game. And, if there's a block couple of inches to the left, might be a big play. And I've been saying that for years. That's what Doug Peterson told me. Yeah, I mean, it could be that small, turn from -4 yards to 20 yards and probably win in the game. It could be that slight of difference. So I'm with him. He's right. It's about the players first. I say it all the time. Good times, it's about the players first. Bad times, it's about the players first. And AJ kind of let people in on that little secret, which I think is a good thing.
And it shouldn't be as big a secret as it is to some people who want to always blame the coaching staff. And he did specifically take Sirianni's back, because there's a lot of speculation when a guy decides after the game, I can't talk because my mama taught me if you don't have something nice to say, don't say anything at all. Well, then what the hell is he talking about? There's speculation runs to the coaching staff, specifically the head coach. And it sounded to me like he's got no problems with Nick Sirianni whatsoever. Which again, my surprise level of the amount of vitriol and and desire for action offing Nick Sirianni's head has surprised me this week. I just don't understand it, don't get it. Well, a guy who's there, a guy who's among them, a guy who maybe you could wonder a little bit, is he being handled correctly by the coaching staff? Now, I'm not defending AJ for the way that he handles his own business, but they could throw the ball a little bit more to AJ Brown, but he took Nick Sirianni's back 100%, which I think is a good thing for the Eagles at this juncture. You got one regular season game. People were throwing out the get right phrase. Starting against Seattle, leading into the Giants. And again this week with Arizona, it's a get right game. It's a get right game. It's a get right game. No, they got right against the Giants. They didn't get exciting against the Giants. They still need a get right game again, depending on your definition, how you want to describe it. They need that, Johnny Mac, going into the playoffs. They need a confidence lifting game against the Giants this week. And if you want to go down the road of you can't get that, it's impossible against the New York Giants because they're the New York Giants and they're 5-11. Maybe, but I'm not going to lack for trying. I'm not going to just go, well, since we can't do it because the Giants don't prove anything. That's a defeatist attitude. They have to go out and they need to get right. They need to build their confidence. I know there's veteran guys on this team. There's Super Bowl winning guys on this team. Not as many of them as you may think. There's a bunch of guys here that still have to prove to themselves and to their teammates, and thirdly, to the fan base, that they can get right and get back to the level that they were at, or at least a hell of a lot closer to the level that they were at last year when they made the Super Bowl run as compared to this season.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's pretty simple. I'm scoreboard watching. I'm starting everybody. And if things start going in a negative direction with Dallas and Washington, I'm going to start pulling guys. If you go back to 2021, we've already seen Nick Sirianni's thought process, resting guys. And he could have, they weren't a good team at that time. They were the last team in. But it was unique and they couldn't change seating in the last week. And there was nothing to accomplish other than that kind of stuff. Feel good, whatever, play well, go into Tampa. I don't think it would have mattered either way. They decided to get there as healthy as possible. And even that didn't work out because you had the Josh Sweat incident the night before, the strange blood vessel bursting. So he couldn't play, but obviously you can't control that kind of thing. And you see the Rams aren't playing their guys this week. They're in a similar situation. They're not a great team. They're a surprise playoff team. The 49ers aren't playing any of their people, obviously. So, in theory, the Rams, hey, let's go get some confidence, but they're going to err on the side of caution. Now, you got to play some guys. It isn't the preseason. Everybody says treat it like a preseason game. Well, you don't have 90 players, so you can't treat it like a preseason game. But certain guys have to play because you only have a limited number of players that can dress. And you can manipulate things as much as possible for your key players. But with the Eagles, they're still – everybody's just turning the page on Dallas and Washington, and they're probably right. But, Dallas hasn't played great at times on the road this season. It's a rivalry game. One of those times when you got nothing to play for, you always go for it on fourth down. Or who knows with Ron Rivera. He's been the exact opposite of his reputation this year. But, it's harder to stop people when they're, using that extra down and doing some things. Quirky things happen in this league every week. So I'm watching the scoreboard, and I think it's pretty simple. We'll see how Nick handles it. I would think, knowing Nick, he would be even more cautious and try to rest as many people as possible. But we'll see. Slay talked yesterday, and it, probably doesn't matter to him either way, but he was like, he said what you said, basically. No, we need to play well. We need to go in there with a positive spin. Now he's not going to play anyway, in my estimation. I don't know that for a fact. And Nick said everybody's a possibility, and he was back at practice in a limited fashion. But I just find it very hard to believe they're going to put him out on that MetLife turf. Now, maybe if it were here, it would be different, but I don't think they're going to risk it. And we'll see how all that shakes out. But yeah, I would scoreboard watch. That's what I would do.
Well, let me ask you a couple of questions. Are you comparing the Eagles and the Rams this week? That the Rams are locked in, the Eagles are all but locked in. Not locked in, because you're right. Washington could jump up and beat Dallas. Highly unlikely, but not a zero possibility. So are you putting the Rams and the Eagles in the same?
No, I'm putting the Rams in the same category as the Eagles in 2021 when they rested everybody.
Okay.
Even though they were a sort of a surprise playoff team trying to get into the dance, and they could have used the situation to gain some confidence going into Tampa and all that kind of stuff. And they wanted to get there as healthy as possible. And I don't think it was going to matter either way, to be honest. But and that's the way they went. Now this year it's different because there is an opening to get, and I think it's pretty significant opening from the number 5 seed to the number 2 seed. I think that's pretty stinking significant.
Oh yeah.
So as long as there's a chance, everybody's playing. In my mind, everybody's playing. Now I'm going to watch the scoreboard, and if Dallas is up 21-0, yeah, I'm probably going to remove guys at that point judiciously.
Yeah, I'm a little more dedicated to they need to get the entire team moving back in the right direction. And part of that is expectations. This season they are still the defending NFC champions as we sit here today. And they were supposed to be defending their NFC championship, get back to the biggest game of all, the Super Bowl, and take another shot, if not a better shot, at winning it. Pulling guys in the last week of the season when you haven't had a good game, a defending NFC championship level game in 5 weeks. I'm sorry, I can't do that if I'm the coach. I know what the goal was to start the season. I know what the expectations were to start the season. I have to get closer to those expectations. I have to get closer to that level of play. And you only got one more shot to do it before the playoffs start. Unless you're so cocky in the other direction. Well, we'll just get right in the opening playoff game as the 5 seed, whoever we have to be facing off against. I don't think you'd ever get any coach on this team to admit to that. And if they did, shame on them. No, you've got a game sitting in front of you. Get right now. Get right this week against the New York Giants. That's the way I'm looking at this game. And what came as to me the biggest surprise yesterday was, and tell me if I'm reading too much into this because you were there. I just saw it on tape after the fact. Nick Sirianni was pretty outspoken about the fact that Devontae Smith may play this week. Now, you and I don't know how badly his ankle was turned. I know they put him on cast, in a cast and a walking boot with crutches. So you read into that, whatever you're going to read into that. But and Devontae was one of only 3 players who didn't participate at all in practice, understandably so. Afterward, he talked about, Devontae's a possibility. If you're doing we're not going to take any chances routine, there's no way Devontae, he might not even get on the bus. Tell him to keep his foot elevated in front of the TV and watch the birds from home. No, they're talking about him actually playing this week, which gives me some hope that maybe that will be the Eagles' game plan. We need to get back to being the Philadelphia Eagles of last year. We need to play one game. It's not going to change you over. You're only going to get the 12 win. You can't replay the whole season in one last game against the Giants at MetLife Stadium, but you've got to be at least headed in that direction.
I like the MetLife reference, but with Devontae, I mean, obviously now in hindsight, the walking boot and the crutches were cautionary. He was in the locker room yesterday, no walking boot, no crutches, walking around pretty much fine. Now that's a big difference walking from the showers to your locker versus, being able to play in an NFL game. If I'm still a betting man, I'd say there's no way he's playing again on that turf. Remember, it's JetLife Stadium. We'll use MetLife. Everybody hates that turf. Everybody in this league hates that turf. I don't know how did the Jets do it. I feel bad for them. The Giants, they got to play their home games. Every visiting player, you ask them what the worst surface is in the NFL, they're going to say MetLife Stadium. Talked to Slay about it again yesterday. It's trash, he called it. And, went into basically a tangent about billionaires, fix it, blah, blah, blah. They got so much money. They hate it. Now, you got to play on it. I mean, they played on it already this year. And they got to play on it again. Nobody's happy about it, though. And when you're talking about guys like Slay and Smith, who are already injured, Slay's, on his rehab on his way back, I find it hard to believe they're going to throw him out there. But we'll see. And as I said, in the same conversation, Slay took your task. He said, no, we got to play well. We got to play. We got to get right, essentially, going into the playoffs. You called it a defeatist attitude earlier. I would call it a realist attitude. There's nothing you're going to do. You just had a bunch of get right games you weren't able to get right. There's nothing you're going to be able to do in this stinking game that makes people outside the building think you're right or think something. And by the way,
I'm not worried about side. I'm worried about inside the building.
And what you mentioned the expectations of fan base as well, but I'll get to that. So that's been part of their problem. Who gives a crap about outside the building? Inside the building matters, like you said. And I take the same realist approach. They know the New York Giants aren't the San Francisco 49ers or the Dallas Cowboys. They know that, and they know where they are. I'm just trying to win. If I'm Nick Sirianni, I'm trying to win a game in Tampa, New Orleans, Atlanta. That's the most likely scenario. How do you do that? What gives you the best opportunity? I think, and again, I'm playing until the scoreboard tells me not to play. But I don't think there's much to gain by fighting. What if you're 14-14 at halftime and you haven't gotten right? And now you're in a struggle. I don't care about winning the game as much as losing a player or losing a key player on that crappy turf. So I'm going to err on the side of caution unless there's a chance to get that number 2 seed. As long as there's a chance, and I don't care if it's 5%, 25%, 90%, 2%. I'm not closing that door until it's closed. And if the Cowboys are up 21-0, it's probably closed. And I'm going to start pulling people.
Yeah, I'm playing to win this game. And yes, do I think that they can up their confidence level with a confidence building win, a significant win against the Giants on the road, going into Tampa, Atlanta, New Orleans next week? Yeah, those are comparable games. Right now, I don't know what their confidence level is against anybody. Anybody. They couldn't beat the Arizona Cardinals in their own house. They got taken down by a 3-win
Well, remember,
team.
They were facing Vince Lombardi, though. So, Tampa doesn't have Vince Lombardi. Arizona doesn't have Vince Lombardi.
Now you can see you're going to get.
I'm sorry, Arizona does. I'm sorry.
The streamers are going to get on your case again because you're taking Jonathan Cannon's back to.
Hey, I'm not the one.
Level.
I'm not the one who told you he was the crappiest coach of all time, and then all of a sudden turned on the dime, and said, "Oh, well, Gannon knows us so well, and he had a great game plan, and he was Vince Lombardi." And I'm not the one who said that.
Who called him Vince Lombardi? I'd really like to know.
I called him Vince Lombardi.
That's what I mean. You are calling him Vince Lombardi. I don't know anybody else who's calling him Vince Lombardi.
If we need a sarcasm font. My point is the Eagles acted like it was Vince Lombardi after the fact by saying, oh, it was such a great game plan. He knows us so well. I'm saying they're full of crap. That's what I'm saying. It's sarcasm. If people want to believe that, they're idiots in the stream. I'm saying you can't say the guy's the worst coach in the world and then turn around and say he's the best coach in the world and he knows us so well. It's obviously somewhere in the middle, But the point I'm trying to make is you had opportunities to get right game. You ain't getting right in this game. So if you can win the game and get the number 2 seed, yeah, by all means, that's what you have to do. That's all that matters, seeding. And as long as that seeding is up for grab, I'm playing my guys. The minute it isn't, I'm not playing my key guys. It's pretty simple for me.
Whoever's playing, be it 100% of the starters, 80% of the starters, 60% of the starters, and that's about all you can get down to, because as John correctly points out, you only got so many subs. It isn't a 100-man roster. You just can't pull all your starters and put backups in. Whatever that percentage is, if they win 24-23 this week, they're dead in the water. They got no shot in the playoffs. I will probably pick against them week 1 and week 2.
If they lose to the New York Giants, they have a chance to win in the first week. I'm not saying they're going to win, but those teams aren't good. You're gonna
give them a chance against the Cowboys in Dallas and San Francisco?
No, probably not.
Okay,
but that's week 2. Week 1, yes, it doesn't matter what happens.
What would that week 1 win on the road against whoever the lesser champion of the NFC South actually achieve for the Philadelphia Eagles?
Well, I don't know. We're going to bring Mike Gill. Mike Gill and I have been talking about this for over a decade now, about how sports have changed and nothing matters. Nothing matters except, especially when you get to this this level where the Eagles are Super Bowl or bust, and nothing matters. If they don't get the Super Bowl, I would argue with you, it astonished me. And I said this yesterday on Mike's show. To this day, so many Eagles fans don't look at making the Super Bowl last year as an accomplishment because they didn't win it.
That's just foolishness. But if an Eagle fan this year wants to, after the fact, say beating Tampa in Tampa the week after they finish the regular season by whatever they win by, we won't make it too outrageous either way. We won't make it 1 point. We won't make it 3 touchdowns. They beat Tampa by a touchdown next week, but then turn around and get their tails handed to them in Detroit and Dallas, in San Francisco and Dallas. Yeah, the season's a failure.
Well,
and I don't think that's wrong. I don't think a fan who would hold them to their standard, or an Eagle player who would hold them to that standard, I don't think that's wrong. I don't think you go, well, they made the playoffs. They won 12 games.
I didn't say that.
A playoff game. It's a failure.
That's fine based on the expectations. I don't disagree with that. But there's a bunch of people act like it doesn't matter. I don't know. Does Sidney Brown play well in that game? Does Slay get hurt again? Does Kaylee Ringo play well in that game? Does Jalen Carter play well in that game? Does Jordan Davis play well in that playoff win? Any young player you want to throw out there, you got to roll out there. If they contribute, yeah, it means something. Is the season a disappointment based on expectations? Sure, that those two things aren't mutually exclusive. But there's a whole generation of sports fans. Nothing matters. Nothing matters. Why do we play these damn games? Nothing matters. So if a win over Tampa Bay, let's just say that happens and they get waxed the second week, nothing matters. So why are we talking about the New York Giants in week 18? If that doesn't matter, that sure as hell doesn't matter. The New York Giants.
You're saying it doesn't matter. I say it does matter.
Well,
I say they still have the possibility of getting right and building momentum and carrying it 1 week into the other. The Eagles subs winning a close game or getting beat by the Giants this week decreases the possibility of getting on that role, as unlikely as it may
And
be.
I did not
the
say
minimalist of possibilities.
I'm not saying it doesn't matter. I'm saying everything matters. I'm saying I'm trying to win that week.
John, how can you say everything matters when you say you're not going to play your players this week against the Giants?
Because I'm trying to win the first game of the playoffs. I'm trying to get to win that's my first goal. I can't win the second game until I win the first game. I'm trying to get to the second game. You're talking in hindsight. Now, what if they get blown out?
No,
Well,
I'm
yeah,
talking
what if
in
they get blown
foresight.
out?
I'm saying you need to win both games to give yourself a chance in that second game of the playoffs. A pass on this game, I think, reduces your chances to win 2 weeks down the road.
And I'm not giving them a pass on this game. I said I'm scoreboard watching. I said I'm starting. I don't even know if Nick's going to start players. I'm starting everybody, and I'm scoreboard watching. But I'm also realistic. And if it's 21-0 and Dallas is waxing Washington, yeah, I'm not going to risk Jalen Hurts. I'm not going to risk Jason
You're trying to
Kelce.
find a middle. I don't think this is a middle game. I think you're either all in or all out. Either you're trying with every single fiber that you have to not only win, but build your confidence level, or yeah, we're just going to roll the dice the rest of the way. We win, we lose, whatever. We're going to just
The Philadelphia
Everybody's
Eagles
something
aren't
at you.
building or losing confidence with the New York Giants. They're just not.
see, I think they can. I disagree with you on that. All right, Mike Gill is waiting for us. We're going to punch him up from the Sports Pass down the shore. Gill next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. First and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their Fantasy Pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
And the big story on Action News?
Search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES. Eagles.
McMullen, McDonald, and Mike Gill from down the shore Who's moving again? You got to get that computer in that perfect place, Gil. I appreciate your dedication. Thank you very much for that. What kind of T-shirt you got on today? We see it's Nike. Who you repping? Vanderbilt.
Well, Jordan Matthews love.
I was in Nashville. I was in Nashville this summer, toured the campus. You know, they redid the stadium there. I don't know what it looked like during the year, but there was nothing there when I went. Nothing in August.
The Bandy Stadium?
The two end zones were completely gone. They're redoing like the seating down there. It's all right, campus. I would think for such a prestigious university that the campus would have more cachet to me of all the campuses.
Hey, but think Nashville's a great burgeoning city as well. So,
you know, people keep saying that, and I had a good time, but I think I would it's so small that I think you would get bored there after a while.
Well, you're not a bridesmaid. That's a big bridesmaid hangout.
No, and what it is a country music town. If you don't like country music, get the hell out. Why the hell would you even begin to show up in Nashville if you don't like country music? That's all you need to know about Nashville. And all you need to know is Mike Gill wears T-shirts from universities that would not accept Jody McDonald, John McMullen, or Mike Gill. But somehow he's proud to don a Vanderbilt T-shirt. All right, Gill, break the debate for us. There are three potential ways the Eagles can handle this game against the Giants. One is, let's be honest, the Cowboys aren't losing to the Commanders here. They're going to win. We're going to be in the 5th seed. We're going to have to play in the playoffs. We need to protect everybody on this god-awful field that John McMullen is describing as like a minefield that no one can possibly play on because the turf is
Hey, it ain't me. It's the players.
Yeah.
Players.
I don't
play on the field.
How'd the Jets get Aaron Rodgers to sign to play on the worst turf in the National Football League?
I will say on the whole field thing at MetLife. And by the way, Colin Thompson was on my show yesterday. I asked him about the field. He said it's awful. But my point is, never heard this before until this year. Did it just all of a sudden become the worst?
They've been talking about it for years.
But I feel like this is the first year we've heard how bad it is. I don't think in previous years anyone ever said, "Oh, that horrible." To the point that it's so bad that, I don't even think you could play the Eagles can put any guys on that field. It's so bad. It's like, I've never heard that before.
No, they play there all the time, but I'm just saying the players hate playing there.
Yeah. Oh, I'm not doubting that. My point is, I have never heard so much outward, so much of people saying how bad it is. I'm not doubting that the players hate it. I've just never actually heard the players or people say how bad the surface is there. This is the first year that I've heard it's like common knowledge how bad it is. I'm like, I didn't know that.
It's been raised to a new level. I agree with you there, Mike, but it's never been a good, since they built the goddamn stadium, it hasn't been a good surface.
Yeah.
But if it snows this week, maybe they should cancel the game because God forbid any players go out and not play on pristine field.
That's it's funny because they used to, Bet Stadium was atrocious for many years, but now there's so much money involved. I think the players are like, and that's what Slay said yesterday. It's like and he was cursing. They make so much damn money. Fix it. It's not hard to fix. So I think that's the frustration from their standpoint. It's easy to fix.
Some might say it is hard to fix, aka last year's Super Bowl. It's really easy to say after the fact. Go, oh, just fix it. All right, so just sit everybody. Take your best 9 players and go. You're all out, and figure out how to fill in the blanks thereafter and protect who you need to protect. Or, as John is suggesting, you're middle of the road. Keep an eye on the scoreboard. Cowboys are close. You keep trying to win up until the Cowboys go ahead by 2 touchdowns. You go, all right, we got to go back into protection mode, and you pull your key guys. Or my take, which is forget the Cowboys. Their score is irrelevant. You, as the Philadelphia Eagles, have to feel good about yourself going into the postseason. And they have exactly 0 momentum right now. Whatever the momentum it is that I can build up by beating the snot out of the New York Giants by 3 touchdowns, I want to take. So I'm playing my guys this week to try and get right. Of those 3 choices, what would Mike Gill's be?
This game has so many great conversational hypotheticals, right? It's awesome for the next couple days for a game about a team that I agree that has apathy around it. We ran a poll the other day. Which team in 2024 are you most excited about? The Eagles playoff run, Sixers, Flyers, or Phillies? The Eagles came in last.
Last. I couldn't believe when Mike told me that.
Right, last. So the apathy around this team is unbelievable. So the hypotheticals around this game, to me, and I brought this up yesterday as well, Jody, I don't think I can take any. Like, if the Eagles win 38-3 and look good, that's not changing anybody's mind, right? It's just not. You're playing the Giants. Nobody cares. You know, we had people when they played the Giants the last time. Well, even if they beat the Giants, it's only the Giants. I don't care. I think people are at the point of the opponent in this game will give you no indication of where this team is. So, to me, I'm taking the bye week and just getting into the playoffs healthy, mind fresh, clear, and almost like a fresh start, and see if you just can't hit the switch come playoff time. Because, quite frankly, I know going on the road is a tall task, but you already think you have a tall task. So your path is probably best starting right now from 5 rather than 3.
So let me ask you a question, and I'll try and thread the needle here. Let's say you were playing the Lions in Detroit this week. It's not the Giants. It's the Lions in Detroit, a team that's going to make the playoffs like you. You know you're not going to play them in the first round because if you win, they're divisional winner. They already got their division. So it's not you're giving anything away, but it's a team that's in the playoffs going to be hosting a game, not a team that's 5-11 like the Giants is. Would you play differently?
That's a good question, and it's fair. I probably would say no, based on.
So then don't give me about you can't win anything against the Giants. If the answer is you're playing a team that's going to be in the playoffs and exactly the same, but you wouldn't play your guys anyway, then I don't want to hear about the Giants. You can't win anything against the Giants. So your stance is you can't win anything this week. You don't think beating anyone this week will wipe out the previous 5 weeks of the Eagles just had?
No, well, based on the fact that I could face the Lions in the playoffs, and I might not want to show them anything at this stage of the season. So there is a little bit of, as the Eagles love, competitive advantage.
All right, you want it? You're gonna make me go another direction, and please don't give me the Super Bowl, okay? Let's say you were playing the Jaguars this week, a team that's gonna win a division, should win a division. They got everything to play for this week in the other conference. You're not facing them in the playoffs unless you get to the goddamn Super Bowl. Yeah. So if you're playing the Jaguars, who are a better team than the Giants, who are heading to the postseason, would you play your guys? Would you sit your guys?
I still think I'm at the point in my mind. Now, I do see both values of getting some reps. And I talked about this with Colin yesterday. As a player, would you want to play or would you want to sit out? And just, I think for me, and I don't know that there's a right answer here. For me, I think this team is at the point of they need a break. They need a week off. They need to just get away from the game. Because, look, and they're not the Raiders. The Raiders scored 0 points 1 week. They scored 63 the next. So you were so inept 1 week and then you were the greatest offense of all time the next. People have this belief that one game that the momentum's going to carry over to the next. It's bullshit. It's not happening. The players are different. The schemes are different. The game plans are different. The matchups are different. Styles make fights every week. So whatever you did 1 week does not carry over to success the next week just because you played well against the Giants. So to me, the best option is to just get away from the game for a week or two and get your mind right, body right, and ready to be refocused for hopefully your best shot at a run in the playoffs, which no one is giving you a shot right now. Doing anything in the snow against the Giants is probably not changing that at all. If they win 38-3 over the Giants, are you really going to come on Monday, Jody, and say, you know what? I think there's a Super Bowl run coming. No, of course not.
I'm going to say I think they got a better chance than if they beat the Giants 24-23 or lose to the Giants 24-23. Damn straight it's moving the needle for me.
All right, well, then you're a much more positive guy than me. So with that, I look at it like that. Like I said yesterday, A.J. Brown, of all the guys on this team, if you said, go get a guy, get him out here, and I want to ask him questions, he's the guy I want to hear from. He's the only guy I would think would tell me the truth. Brandon Graham, way too positive. Everything's great. Fletcher Cox, yeah, we got to get it right. We got to do same with Kelsey, who's great. He'll give you some emotion, but A.J. Brown's going to give it to you. Here's the problem. A.J. Brown doesn't play defense. So I might think that A.J. Brown can get some things going on offense. And I, quite frankly, as much as the offense has been frustrating, there is a part of me that feels like, hey, they can click at any moment because they have the talent to do so. He can't speak for that defense, which stinks. So the problem is whether they play great against the Giants or don't play, that defense right now, I think, has nobody to speak for them to make us all believe that they can just turn the corner. So regardless, I think your answer could be right, Jody, John's middle-of-the-road answer, and mine sitting them out. 3 different views. I don't think it's helping them because that defense stinks. And, throughout the season, I'm a big person of I don't care. There was a year, 2019. The Eagles lost to the Dolphins, who were trying to tank, right? They were trying to tank that year. They lost to the Dolphins. It was an embarrassing loss, and everybody said, that's it. They stink. They can't do it. They won 4 games in a row and went to the playoffs and almost won a game or 2 in that playoff run. That
now,
team,
who are you referencing here? I'm sorry, I missed that, Mike.
The 2019. They played the Dolphins in a game where the Dolphins were tanking.
It's when Stephen Ross was trying to pay Brian Flores to tank.
Yes. And everybody bailed on them. They're the worst team. If you lose to the Dolphins, how can you beat anybody else? Well, they went and won 4 straight games to end the season and went to the playoff. They won the division that year. So whatever happens in one game, to me, is not a big carryover. I'm a big person of looking at what you're ceiling. When you played your best game, what could you do? The problem is they played their best game, you could say, defensively against Miami, maybe the Tampa game. The problem is the personnel is different and the players are different. It's not the same level of ceiling for me on that defense. To me, that offense can score 40 and the defense will give up 44. So the offense people keep complaining about scored 24 points last week and had the ball for 20 minutes.
What's the big personnel change from that Miami? I won't go all the way back to Tampa. I think the Miami is their best game because shutting down Tampa's offense is not as impressive as slowing down Miami's offense. What's been the big personnel change on defense? And it's not the same defense.
It's not been a big personnel change. It has been a inability to it's a great question because you would think Kevin Byers an upgrade over Terrell Edmonds or Justin Evans. James Bradbury has lost 2 steps. He gets cooked every week. So you might say early in the year, maybe he was playing better. He has not displayed any ability to cover in the last, 8 weeks? It is almost like he lost 2 steps right in front of our very eyes. Even if Slay is not having a bad year, we talked about this yesterday, John and I. Every single guy last year on this defense had their best season of all time. And there was no way they were going to duplicate it. We just didn't know they were going to take a step back in some cases or 2 steps back in other cases.
Well, one did. TJ Edwards.
Oh, well, he took 2 steps right out the door. And I talked about this a lot. The people who hated John Gannon. I said, you can hate Gannon all you want at his scheme. The scheme is what the scheme is. We don't like the scheme. But he had multiple guys on this team play the best season that they've ever had in their career.
Yep.
So whether you liked him or not, he had them playing. Hassan Reddick is not the same player. Josh Sweat is not the same player. Brandon Graham, not the same player. Fletcher Cox, not having the same year. Slay, not having the same year.
Fletcher's been pretty good. He was not non-existent this past week, but before that, Fletcher's had a good season. And he had a very good season last year. He had a very, very comparable years last year and this year. John, agree, disagree.
Okay,
no, I think
Fletcher's been the same. The 2 linebackers, obviously. I think the linebackers are so unquantifiable.
Well, now Zach Cunningham is Roquan Smith, evidently. Everybody's talking about Zach and physicality and him getting back. But to Jody's point about Miami, it's part personnel is why, because Slade went out, Zach went out, Avonte Maddox has been out for a long time. That to me is the hope with the defense. Can those three guys elevate them from terrible to okay? And if they can do that, then they can win some games because they can outscore some people.
Yeah, but correct me if I'm wrong. Slade played against both the 49ers and the Cowboys in Dallas.
He did, but he was hurt. And he had knee surgery. He had knee surgery. He's been playing through it, and he might not be 100%. I mean, the assumption
and when he gets back
at 33, yeah,
he might when he gets back, he's going to be coming off of 4 weeks of knee surgery, and you're going to say, "Hey, he's back," and I mean, to me, it's just the writing's on the wall with this defense. Everybody complained about Brian Johnson and the offense and the bubble screens. They scored 24 points last week. They only had the ball for 20 minutes. I mean, yeah, it's not aesthetically pleasing, but they're scoring enough points. If you score 31 points in an NFL game, you should goddamn win the game. Yeah. Right? You got to win the game at 31 points in an NFL game. I know one came off of an interception return. Their offense is part of the problem, but that defense for me, I can't trust that defense in any stretch of the imagination.
No, why could you? But my point with those three players, Slay might not be what Slay once was, but he's better than anybody else they have. And if he's playing, Ricks and Ringo aren't playing. If Zach Cunningham's playing, Shaq Leonard's not playing.
You can make a strong argument that Ringo and Ricks have played better than Bradbury, and that Bradbury shouldn't be on the field.
Well, I'm not going to go that far, but yeah, Bradbury hasn't played well. But I'm gonna ride with Bradbury and hope there's some improvement, and maybe there isn't going to be improvement because he's had a bad season.
The thing is, those guys in the back end, it is what it is. Like if Bradbury's good and Slay is good, this defense is predicated on getting pressure, and they're getting zip, no pressure. Buckus, Zippo, Reddick, and Sweat have not had any. Okay, I know you're not a big sack guy. Sacks number. They're not getting pressure. They're not even. They can't even get a handshake.
They still have more pressures than they had last year, which is astonishing to me. By the way,
well, they were on a higher pace of last year. About 8 weeks into the season, since about that time, they have gone radio silence.
They haven't played well.
The run defense. You give up over 200 yards to the Arizona Cardinals on the ground. I liken this to, Mike Tyson losing to Buster Douglas. For a while there, he was invincible. Nobody even wanted to try to run the ball. Once somebody ran the ball on this team, they said, why were everybody afraid of this run defense? Jordan Davis, no help in the run game. Carter, certainly not the same impact that he had. I know the linebackers have been in and out, so they're not helping as much against the run. The run defense is supposed to be the strength. I remember when they played Tampa Bay, that was week 2. They were giving up like 50 yards a game, and you're like, are they even going to try to run on this team? Well, they didn't try to run on this team because nobody could. And then as soon as somebody did, everybody did. It was like, this defense people were afraid of, get out of here. So they can't stop the run. They don't get enough pass rush. They tackle awful tackling. Bad defense.
By the way, and Nick Sirianni brought this up yesterday to the tackling. Yeah, they were atrocious against Arizona. They're the third best tackling team in the NFL. And people think they can't tackle, which they can't tackle, but nobody can tackle. So I don't necessarily think that those were the worst run fits I've seen all season. I mean, guys just out of gaps. And you start to say, all right, why is that at this point in week 17? Why is it that bad? And a lot of people gave you, Ganning schemed it up and this and that. And he knows the Eagles defense. Boy, it was bad. And part of the reason is I don't think it could be that bad again. I think they're going to overcorrect. So Nick brought it up. By missed tackle percentage, they're third best in the NFL.
That's crazy.
If you look at PFF, they're fourth best tackling team. Nobody tackles. So, but when it really shows up is when you're not in those run fits where you're supposed to be. Then you got those big gashing gains. And then Connor can break tackles. Yeah, it was ugly. It was ugly last week. But it's got that part of it I don't worry about because that's going to self-correct. The bigger issue is that they got to look, I think it's great long-term. Ringo getting some experience, Rick's getting some experience. But if they want to win playoff games, they can't be on the field. Same thing with Shaq Leonard. He's more of a veteran player with him. He got here so late. You can't expect too much. Certainly Ben Van Sumeren. I mean, you can't have Ben Van Sumeren on the field, expect to win playoff games.
No.
He's got to be off the field. So, yeah, that's their only hope.
Is it Nicholas Morrow by process of elimination?
Oh, yeah, Nick's got to play. Nick's got to play. Nick and Zach. That's the best you have. So that's who you have to play.
It's not quite good enough for me, but there's nothing you can do about it now. But my guy, just got to thank you because you helped to make a point for me. The Eagles, who have more pressures this year than last year, and the defense has gone down significantly from last year to this year, tells you how overrated pressures are. When sacks disappear, your defense disappears. And that's what's happened to the Eagles defense this year. So I stand by my sacks are really important statistic. Let me see if you both agree. If I lose this one, I'm just going to probably have to resign. One guy who needs to play 90% of the snaps this week for me is Avonte Maddox. And I know he's coming back off an injury, and you'd like to be careful.
He's hurt
with
again,
him.
by the way. He's got an elbow injury. He was limited.
Can't trust those guys from Pitt.
I'm going to use a phrase Mike Gill used just earlier here in the show. Last week, Avonte Maddox sucked. He was friggin' terrible. He got the worst PFF grade on the entire Eagle team. Offense, defense, anywhere. Ooh, we're getting Avonte Maddox back. That takes that big problem off our plate. We've been terrible in this line. We've been running guys in and out and in and out and in and out of this line. Oh, we got Avonte back. He was awful. You talk about rest versus rust. Forget rest. He's got rust dripping off him. He needs to play every single snap because if you're going to move on to the playoffs, you're going to need Avonte to be at least a portion of what Avonte Maddox can be. Do you agree he's got to play this weekend?
Yeah, no, he definitely, as much as you're so concerned about him getting hurt, you're right. He was terrible last week. And to me, he's a big key of why this defense has had some issues in that area. I mean, when he went out, how many different guys have played slot corner?
Oh.
I mean, he is, look, I'm a West Virginia guy. To have to say a Pitt guy, although you can't trust a Pitt guy. That's why. That's the problem. You can't trust a Pitt guy. But he has played very well when he's been out there healthy, but he just constantly keeps getting hurt. But I do agree that he is one of the few guys that I want to see get out there, play a full game, play again. He had last week where he was really bad. Just kind of get that rust off. Now get another game where you can play. Now it's a bad turf to have to put these guys. It might be snowing out there. But yeah, he would be one guy that I want to see. Obviously you can't sit everybody. People have to play. And you mentioned Shaq Leonard. I have not seen one thing from Leonard. And it was like people thought they were going to sign this guy. He was going to help this defense out. Getting Maddox
he actually played well against the Giants. He had a good game. He had one really great play that kind of stood out. He wasn't terrible against the Giants. Other than that, he's kind of sucked.
Right, but we're
tossing that suck word around a lot today. Shaq Leonard's done more sucking than playing, yes.
Right, but he would be a guy that I would play, and maybe if I see something from him in the game to say, all right, but give him a chance to play more. Byard might be a guy because Byard, you make this trade for this guy, and you're thinking, man, we got this all-pro safety. He's really going to change that position. That was a revolving door. That position still hasn't really stood out at all. The Maddox kid role, I certainly would play. By the way, did anybody else find it perplexing that they activated Rashad Penny, didn't give him a carry, and deactivated Roby?
Well, they had 4 players who were active that didn't play. One is Marcus Mariota, which doesn't matter, but you rarely see that. Why is he active? Now, they didn't play a lot of offensive snaps. Yeah. Maybe that played into it. Maybe they thought they were going to have a lead, and that was going to be the Rashad Penny coming that close out the game with the big lead type of thing. But it's weird that you have that many available players not playing. It was a little bit strange. At Mike Gill Show, make sure you follow Mike on X/Twitter. 97.3 The Sports Bash every afternoon, 2 to 6. By the way, and I wanted to do this on purpose, and it wasn't brought up, and I got to bring it up at this point. I haven't seen many people write about it. I wrote about it. Am I the only one who looked at AJ Brown yesterday? And I don't care about the other stuff. Maybe because I know AJ and I know it's what he's talking about. I know what he feels. Maybe it's because of that. He said something yesterday that just blew my mind. And that was the Seattle game and the interception.
Yeah.
And he and Jalen Hurts were improvising on that particular play. And he said, Nick is looking like a fool to cover for us. He used that terminology.
Mm-hmm.
They're out there freelancing, improvising on the biggest spot of a game that lost them the game. And I haven't seen any, what the hell is going on here? Now, we talked to Nick before we talked to AJ. So obviously we're going to ask Nick at some point. Probably won't be till Friday. Does that alarm you guys at all?
Yeah. Oh, we talked about it yesterday. You peel the onion deeper from that comment how long has that been going on?
Yeah.
And is anybody
how often does it happen?
Yeah.
How often do you go off script in a season where the offensive coordinator consistently getting criticized for play calling? And how often is that happening? Is there any repercussions? Is anybody saying, hey, we called this and you guys did this? If you do it again, are we at the point where, the players are just having no respect for the coaches? Now, I asked yesterday, I think A.J. Brown was the perfect guy to go talk because I don't think they sat him down and say, you're going to go out there and you're going to make sure you back these coaches and you're going to make sure that everything's good. I think legitimately he went out there and spoke his mind.
Yep.
Whereas, you could say, hey, this guy went out there and spoke and he said, the coaches are good. We ride with them. And you might have said, they told him to say all that. I don't think they said that with A.J. Brown. But my question would be then, so why would A.J. Brown and Jalen Hurts, two of the leaders of this team, just go off script whenever they feel like it? And how long does that happen? How many times? Would Patrick Mahomes just say to Andy Reid, thanks a lot, buddy. Nice play call. I ran my own play.
Well, yeah, Patrick would, but it's one thing to
improvise. Mahomes is probably more likely to do it than any other quarterback.
So then are we saying then it's okay, John?
Well, no, to me, there's a difference between improvising off schedule. That's fine. Jalen Hurts does it all the time. There's no issues at that point when the play breaks down and you're just trying to make a play like the 3rd and 20s to AJ a couple weeks ago, and he's extending the play. That's what Patrick does with the arm angles. That to me is part of the game. That is what makes them great. But this is a play. This is a play where they just threw it. They just threw a go route. And we talked about it a lot. And Nick Sirianni's answer was weird. And we talked about it. And he said, we're trying to draw a pass. Well, who the hell draws up a play to draw a pass interference? Now, you hope Brad Allen's out there making a bad call for you, I guess. But that's not something you hang your hat on. It was just the worst explanation ever. Now we kind of find out why there's all this haranguing.
Well, I love that A.J. Brown said he looked like a fool. His answer was
yes.
Oh, he did.
Yes.
He's being honest.
Yeah.
Power to him.
Yeah.
But I guess I got to go back and watch that play again. I think I still got the Seattle game on DVR. That was an off-schedule play. He was out of the pocket. So
he dropped back and threw a go route. He didn't look off the safety. That's what it looked like on film. He went for the deep shot against Seattle with A.J. Brown kind of underthrew it. The safety, Julian Love, came over, made a great interception. No, it wasn't off schedule. That was dropping back and throwing a go route. And
from the pocket, it was.
Yeah.
Well, it's almost like one of these things where A.J. Brown says to Hurts, I'm going to be open. Just throw it up. I'll get it.
Exactly. And that to me creates more questions and opens Pandora's box. Because if that wasn't the play call, I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen, I guess because of all the other stuff that people were focused on. I was catching flies. My jaw was up. I'm like, what is this? Varsity Blues? What are you just taking over? I mean, it shocked me, but I guess it hasn't shocked as many other people.
It bothers me. I'll agree with you, John. All right, Mike Gill, always a pleasure. We appreciate whatever you do. Come on, looking forward to next week's T-shirt. You got to step up your T-shirt game in 2024, buddy. There's people got to know what Mike Gill's T-shirt's going to be on a week in, week out basis. Looking forward.
I got something great for you next week.
Next week. Oh, he's got a playoff T-shirt, ladies and gentlemen. He's up in his game. We'll get you back on Wednesday next week into your regular slot. Thanks for adjusting the Thursday for us, Mike. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, everybody.
Thanks,
Mike Gill from the Sports Bash, ESPN Radio 97.3 down the shore. And he gets McMullen up as a guest as often as possible. Smart man, that Mike Gill. All right, Jody McDonald, John McMullen here with you on Birds 365. We got Easy Eddie Kratz joining us in less than 20 minutes. So you want to stick around.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At Malamut & Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
McMullen and McDonald here with you on Birds 365. We've got Special Ed Kratz coming up in less than 15 minutes from now. Johnny Mac, do need your take on this. We haven't mentioned an hour and 5 minutes into the show. We haven't mentioned the Eagles in the Pro Bowl. But before we go there, and Jalen Hurts, by the way, not a Pro Bowl quarterback.
No, Matthew Stafford.
They take 3. It's not like they take 1 or 2. They take 3, and Jalen wasn't one of the 3, which is kind of telling as to the season that Jalen Hurts has had. But I was maybe a little disappointed he didn't make it. I can't say shocked, but I was pretty much shocked. Do you believe Josh Allen didn't make the AFC Pro Bowl at quarterback?
He should have made it, but yeah, I mean, I guess I never get shocked by Pro Bowl voting. A lot of, but he has a reputation and he plays well. So, yeah, I mean, obviously Lamar's going to make it. 2 is going to make. Who was the third?
That Mahomes guy.
Oh, Mahomes, yeah. Well, there's reputation. Mahomes shouldn't have made it this year. It's crazy.
Exactly right. Josh Allen should have made it over Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah, I agree with that. But and I'll still say Patrick's the best quarterback in football, but he hasn't had the greatest year.
He hasn't had the best year. He hasn't had a Pro Bowl year.
Yeah. So
fourth best quarterback in the AFC.
But again, yeah, I mean, the reputation is in his case what it is, and rightfully so. I mean, he's tremendous, but yeah, I mean, Josh Allen should have made it ahead of him this year. I think that's fair.
I don't quite understand Allen not making it. I know he throws picks, but he also makes plays that even the great Patrick Mahomes, though, can't make. All right, so the Eagles get 6 Pro Bowlers. 5 on offense, 1 on
defense. Yeah.
And truth be told, again, now we're back into the same old conversation we have too often. Hassan Reddick made the Pro Bowl as an outside linebacker.
Yeah.
And he is not a linebacker, as per McMullen's definition, as per McDonald's definition, as per most people's definitions. He's an edge player, but they continue to, in their press releases, the way they list them, he is considered an outside linebacker. How, I just can't wrap my head around, even the way that they put together the Pro Bowl rosters. And again, it's not even a game anymore. It's now turned into a skills competition. I don't know why this bothers me the way that it does, but it does. You're not even filling out a team. You're not going to play any games. So why am I getting worried about whether he's an outside linebacker or an edge or a defensive end? I am, because you and I have both been doing this for a long time. It's part of the conversation as to judge a player in the moment, in the year, for his entire career. How many Pro Bowls did you make? How many All-Pros? The fact that they're still calling him an outside linebacker, John, it was, by the standards that they've always used for the Pro Bowl, was Hassan Reddick a Pro Bowl player this year in your mind?
I don't think so. And, it's funny because Hassan always felt that, reputation hurt him getting into the Pro Bowl. Now that he's gotten there, now he's the reputation guy getting a Pro Bowl nod. So that's how it works. And that's where it is. And the larger term, and it's one of my pet peeves, the NFL. And that's part of the reason why there's so much misinformation. And, my only conspiracy theory is they don't want to clearly delineate positions to help the owners when it comes to paying guys, because certain positions lower the standard versus everybody else. So that's, I can't think of another reason why everybody calls them edge players, like, where it matters. But if you start, talking about defensive end versus linebacker, Kyle Pitts, you remember a couple years ago, was saying, well, I'm really a receiver because receivers get paid more than tight ends. And, otherwise, I don't know why they do it, but they keep doing it and it drives me insane. But yeah, I don't think anybody on that defense deserves a Pro Bowl nod, to be honest.
And I feel bad doing it because I think this was even before Birds 365 started. When Hassan Reddick left the Cardinals and signed 1 year with his former coach from Temple to go be a Carolina Panther for 1 year, I railed all off season. The Eagles should have interest in Hassan Reddick. The Eagles should be bidding on Hassan Reddick. Why wouldn't you bring Hassan Reddick in here? He's not getting a mega deal. His numbers, as per his draft status, have made him an undervalued player. It's not like you got to open up the bank, and Howie's willing to pay for defensive line anyway. So why would it be outrageous to sign a guy like Hassan Reddick? So I lobbied heavily for him to become an Eagle a year before he became an Eagle. And then he became an Eagle. And I celebrated Howie Roseman for the signing. Sorry, Hassan, you weren't a Pro Bowler this year. You know I'm in your corner. You know how big a fan I am. But I'm just giving you an honest opinion. You didn't have a Pro Bowl year. Josh Sweat, no questions, he didn't have a Pro Bowl year. The stud star of the draft that got Howie Roseman all the offseason pub for him selecting when the rest of the National Football League. How did you allow Carter to get all the way to Howie at number 9? He was great for 8 weeks, and now he's kind of a guy running on empty and fuel and not much left and not much production, even though he did get a sack this past week. Which, could you tell from where you were in the press box? Because I couldn't. And then they gave you a great low-angle shot of it. He whiffed on the sack that he got. Murray stepped up into the pocket, and he just slipped and fell down, and they gave him credit for touching him.
Got to give it credit to somebody. That's why, I always say you got to look at each individual sack, and Chris Long says this all the time. Is it a coverage sack? Is it a quarterback sack? Is it what's going on? Is the quarterback running to the line of scrimmage? Is it a 1 yard sack or a 15-yard sack? There's so much context involved in it. The week before, Shaq Leonard, it was a sack by definition because they gave it the definition. He pushed the guy out of bounds, a 2 yard loss, whatever it was. Who cares? So it works both ways. But overall, look, I'm not, clearly Jalen Carter has hit the rookie wall. I think that's good. And by the way, Jordan Davis has hit the sophomore wall. You got to start talking about that. Those Georgia guys don't play.
Yeah.
They don't play a lot. And you're going to have these issues.
Well, let me, I sorry to interrupt. Is that fault of the Philadelphia Eagle coaching staff? We're saying it now here on Birds 365. And, oh, by the way, not the first time we said it. We said it when they were drafted. Now, these are guys who don't play as many snaps as other defensive tackles because they're members of the Georgia Bulldogs, and they got so much depth along that defensive line, and they win every single game. So realize that they play less on the collegiate level. So be ready. Did the Eagles coaching staff, and Davis is a bigger question because they've had 2 years to get him up to speed. Is that the Eagles coaching staff problem? Or did maybe they reach to get a guy who is always going to be a limited snaps guy because either A, he's incapable of building up the stamina to do it, or his skill set doesn't make him a 3-down player. If Jordan Davis has been a disappointment, and I'll raise my hand and say he has been. I know 2 guys, John McMullen, Jody McDonald, who want to see him draft Kyle Hamilton, who looked like he could be a key player going to the Super Bowl. Where does the underachieving Jordan Davis blame lie?
I would say in that category, Davis is a bigger deal than Carter. I mean, it's up to anybody. And Jordan Davis, talked about conditioning all off season and knew he had to get better from that standpoint, and it looked better early in the season. But it hasn't looked great again late. Long term, I just never thought the guy was going to be a great pass rusher. So I always used the Haloti Ngata example. And my concern, you remember, Jody, I said, I don't know if it's going to work because people are going to expect more. But if you just expect the 2-down run stopper and that kind of thing, I think it'll work out great. But the expectations are what the expectations are, especially when you're drafted that highly and people want to see.
I was going to say, the expectations are not unfair. When you're taken in the middle of the first round, having expectations are reasonable. It's not outrageous to go, Why isn't he getting sacks? We know he's not getting double-digit sacks. Could he get 2 or 3? And could he be this great run? I don't know that he's cashing in any of the chips, John.
Well, he's pretty good. Again, coming off one game, they were terrible, but he's a pretty good run defender already. Now he hasn't been not alike, and that's where I want him to get.
Right.
Who was, a 5-time All-Pro or whatever it was. And, I think he was, I don't know, somewhere in the same range, 12th, 13th, the 12th or 13th overall pick when Baltimore took him way back when. And, nobody had a problem with it because he turned into the player he was. People remember him at the end of his career here when he was on fumes, but in his prime, he was tremendous. And I said, if you get that player, I'm fine with it. Has he been that player? No, but I still think there's a chance. But he's got to improve the conditioning. And same with Jalen Carter. That's up to the player. I mean, the rookie wall didn't start with Georgia defensive tackles. I mean, it's been around in the NFL for years for a reason. One, you don't play as much in general in college. And two, but I think it's hyper-focused because those guys even play less. If you play defensive tackle at Michigan even, who's going for a national championship, you're going to play a lot if you're a good player. Aiden Hutchinson, defensive end, but that dude played all the time and he's got his motor never stops. And you go back to that argument of Trayvon Walker, take it out of Philadelphia versus Aiden Hutchinson. Well, guess what? Jacksonville made a mistake. And one of the reasons they made a mistake is because of that ability for Hutchinson to play every single snap at a high level because of his conditioning, his motor, and all that stuff.
And I'll give you a guy, John. You talk about the rookie wall. It's not an absolute. It's a pretty good, you can take a stance on it because if you judge all the play, put all the rookies in and judge them, I think you can draw a pretty good conclusion that these guys start to wear down. But it's not impossible that you can play through the rookie wall and go above and beyond the rookie wall. This kid, Kobe Turner from the Rams, has got 9 sacks. 9. He's a 3rd-round draft pick, and he's gotten more of them in the second half than he's gotten in the first half. So if handled correctly, if dedicated the way you should be, you can overcome the rookie wall. And the 2 Georgia guys are throwing, and too many media members here in Philadelphia throwing hands up, oh, rookie wall. Well, yeah, how can you expect there's the giving of a rookie wall? How about you defeat the rookie wall? How about you overcome the rookie wall? That would be nice.
Well, I would say from to me, it's not an excuse. It's an explanation. I think he's hit the rookie wall. I'm not saying you can't overcome it. Aiden Hutchinson again. He didn't have no rookie wall. He doesn't. There's no. You're not forced to hit the rookie wall. There are players all the time who overcome it, but it is a real thing, and it is becoming a very real thing with high-level Georgia players for that exact reason. They're just not used to playing a lot.
And that's why I asked the question, how much can we actually put on the Eagle coaching staff for this? That they haven't been able to get the underused at the University of Georgia defensive tackles that they've used 2 first-round picks on in the last 2 years to get not be knocked over by the rookie wall. Can we at least question the Eagle coaching staff that they haven't prepped them and done enough for the drop-off to be less precipitous than it has been for both of those 2 guys?
I guess you can look at the number of snaps, and they should have been more judicious earlier in the season. I guess you can look at it that way. I would say it's more on the strength and conditioning staff. But again,
I consider that part of the coaching staff.
That to me is a multi-year thing. Offensive linemen. There's a lot of offensive linemen in this league that got to get in an NFL weight room. They just got to get stronger because they're playing against real men, old man strength, and a lot of them aren't strong enough early in their career, and they get exposed a little bit, and then they, becomes their life, and they don't have to worry about school and all that kind of stuff. And they develop 2-3 years down the road. Same thing here. They got to get better conditioning. I mean, there's no other avenue. Both Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis have to be better conditioned.
And since I'm giving the Eagles coaching staff, which includes weight staff and everything else, I got a big ass staff I'm referring to. That guy on the offensive side does a really good job. And a guy like Cam Jurgens, who same as Jordan Davis, was thrown into the deep end of the pool this year. And oh, by the way, offensive linemen play all the snaps. When he's not injured, he's in there for every single snap. Cam Jurgens has been able to make that transition as a second-round pick. But the two defensive
Pro Bowl alternate, who, by the way, has missed 5 games, so that helps him. But, yeah, I don't know about Cam being a Pro Bowl alternate. But
Cam's for me, give me the grade on all 3 of these players. Just everything they've done, John. Cam Jurgens, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter. How would you rank them? Production this year, play this year.
Yeah, you're not going to like it. I would say Jalen number 1 by far, Jordan number 2, Cam number 3.
You got Jurgens 3rd?
Yeah.
Behind Davis?
Yeah, Davis was very good early. I mean, I think he was very good early in the season. He struggled later. I think overall.
Which level team did Jordan Davis make a defensive tackle in the Pro Bowl vote? I'd just like to know.
He did not. He did that. Jalen is an alternate. And by the way, Jalen's alternates are a waste of time, but he's a 4th alternate, and Cam is a 5th alternate. So they're way down the list. Like Jake Elliott, alternates are, Jake Elliott's a 1st alternate.
And Jake should go because it's a skills competition. We got to get Jake there. Yeah. He could win the damn thing.
Well, it's hard to complain when the other guy who made it hasn't missed a kick.
Hasn't missed a kick all year. Yeah.
So.
Not saying he doesn't deserve, but
yeah.
All right, he's McMullen. I'm McDonald. We'll come back. We still got 40 minutes left.
By the way, I got my dog is losing her mind, so I'll be back. I got to get her out. I see Ed Kratz. I'm going to be back. I'm letting everyone know I'll be back.
Quality 40 minutes with the big man, Ed Kratz, coming up next here on Birds 365.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
At Pond Lehocky, we've recovered billions of dollars for our clients, and we're confident we can do the same for you. With over 250 years of combined courtroom experience, we've helped over 100,000 injured clients obtain some of the largest settlements in Pennsylvania. One conversation is all it takes to help you and your family get back on track. If you've been injured in an accident, give Pond Lehocky a call.
They're carving them up and good play calling along the way. 1st and goal at the 6.
On the field of life, First Trust Bank is there for you.
Champions on 3. 1, 2, 3.
Because Philadelphia dreams deserve a Philadelphia bank.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday. Watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
Do you stream on a Roku, Fire Stick, Google TV, or Apple TV? Now you can watch 6ABC 24/7 with the 6ABC Philadelphia streaming app.
For the big story on Action News,
search 6ABC Philadelphia and start streaming today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
You got Bird 365 here on the JAKIB Media YouTube channel. We got 300 and change of you streaming right now. Thank you very much for that. Hit the like button because Ed Kratz is on the show. Are you kidding me? Who doesn't love Ed Kratz? Hit that like button right here, right now. All right, Ed. Johnny Mac's going to rejoin us here in just a second, but I put this to both John and to Mike Gill earlier, and we've had 3 different answers. 3 scenarios for the Eagles this Sunday against the Giants. Number 1, you can play everybody because you need to get back on the right course. You need to play as close to 2022 Eagles football as you can. Haven't done it this year. And even if it's against the Giants, a lesser light team, you just got to do it because you need it. Or you can take the middle of the road. We're out to win. We're out to get a W until we know the Cowboys are winning, and then, we're pulling in the oars and we're protecting people and giving rest and not risking injury if we can't catch the Cowboys. Or, no, give them a week off. Give everybody a week off. The chances are of Ed Kratz's favorite player, Sam Howell, beating the Dallas Cowboys is about yo big. So forget it. Just pull them all. Get ready. Everybody on the sidelines. Well, those are the 3 scenarios, and me, John, and Mike all landed on different ones. You are the tiebreaker, Ed Kratz. Sit them all. Sit them until you know the Cowboys win, or play them all because you need to build up some momentum going into the playoffs. How you handling it if you're Nick Sirianni?
Well, I'm not sitting them all. I mean, imagine if my boy Sam Howell does go out and beats the Cowboys, who, by the way, are 3-5 on the road.
By the way, and I apologize, I'm interrupting a lot today. John, would you like if he starts by sitting them all, and you look up the scoreboard, and it's 17-14, Washington, Middleton, then you put your guys in.
No,
would you go there, Johnny Mac?
No, you can't do that. That's why I start everybody. I scoreboard watch, and if it's 21-0 Cowboys, I say, all right, hey, Jalen, thanks. Come on, sit here. Let me take a look at Marcus Mariota. No, you can't not start people and then put them in the game. No, absolutely not.
Just checking on that. I agree.
Yeah, that's why I'm not doing it. What happens if, Washington's up 17-0 at halftime? That won't happen. But, what if it's a close game and, you didn't play anybody? You imagine that? You imagine the outcry.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Everybody and the Cowboys lose.
Yeah.
So you can't do that. I mean, I think the smart play is plan B, like you said, is you play your guys, you scoreboard watch. If the Cowboys are up 17-0 at halftime, then you pull your starters and, hello, Marcus Mariota, try to give your guys a little bit of a break. I would have liked to have seen the thing just be a complete bye. We know how poor that turf is in Meadowlands. You could be risking some injury on that turf with some of your key reserves, but this is where the Eagles are. And I wouldn't play them the whole game if that game is a blowout in Washington and the Cowboys are winning. I would pull them. What happens if the Giants beat them with your starters? There's already, I think, some confidence issues inside that locker room, whether the players say it or not, and they won't say it, but there has to be some confidence issues after the way they kind of limped through December.
So you're trying to mask the fact that this team is dead in the water? By sitting your starters, that's what you're suggesting?
I think that, what's going to give you the confidence that you're going to play better in the final game of the season than you have all year, and you're going to beat the Giants 42-10? That would be a nice confidence boost, but I just don't see that happening. This team has been flawed all year. And I think that could backfire if you play everybody and you end up winning 31-30, or, it's a real close game. I mean, the first meeting between these two teams kind of was, right? I mean, it went down to
last play.
Kelly Ringo interception in the end zone. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think playing them all and winning a close game is going to help them going into the playoffs.
All right, Ed. Yesterday was AJ Brown Day. You weren't there because you had coaching duties. By the way, you got your coaching gear on. I like that.
Yeah. Just wore it last night. Figured I'd throw it on this morning before.
Is that P for Philadelphia Eagles? What is that P there?
Penridge High School.
Okay. Penridge High School Wrestling. Dominant program because of Ed Kratz. I'm going to give him credit for that. But nonetheless, you saw all AJ, and I had a different take than most people. What was the most important part of that for you? Do you think, AJ? A lot of people are saying, "Oh, a press conference is going to turn it around for the Eagles." I think that's silly, but I think people missed. They buried the lead. Not everybody, but I think they buried the lead.
Well, I think you were the one that wrote about it, and that was the fact that him and Jalen Hurts kind of went off script at the end of the Seahawks game.
Am I missing something? Why is that not a bigger deal? Maybe I'm wrong. Why is that not a bigger deal?
Well, I think it is a big deal. That was a pretty big takeaway from that, is that, it almost looks like Sirianni isn't in control of what's going on the field. If he lets his two-star players kind of go off script and try to take a deep shot, it leads to an interception. Meanwhile, you have Kenny Gainwell sitting off to your left, and we've rehashed this before, but you could have dumped it to him. Maybe he gains 20 yards and gets out of bounds, closer to field goal range. But, Hurts and Brown were intent on taking that deep shot, and it wasn't the right call. And Nick tries to cover up for it. And, he sounded foolish when he said it, that, maybe we thought we would get a pass interference there. That, that right there was not a very wise thing to say. And now we know why, because he was just covering up for Brown and Hurts going rogue.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. It shocked me. And, I guess because there were so many other issues about people, what's wrong with AJ? What's he complaining about?
Yeah.
To me, and he said, throw him part of it is there is the assumption that anytime a receiver is complaining or seen complaining, they're complaining about targets. There's like a million other reasons they could be complaining, but everybody boils it down to targets. Now, AJ always wants the football, and he said it. If you throw it to me 105 times, I want it 106. Is that a bad thing when a great player like that wants the football?
No, you don't want. Remember when Mac Hollins was here and he was saying, about he wanted to play special teams. He wanted to be known as a special teams guy, not really a receiver. I mean, that's not what you want. I mean, that's the opposite of what AJ Brown is. Yeah, you want that in your receiver. And, it was nice to hear him clear that up, because that is the assumption a lot of people make when they see them on the sidelines arguing. It's about, hey, throw me the ball. And Keyshawn Johnson, back when he said, just throw me the damn ball, I mean, that was kind of the perception that we had of receivers, is they want the football, and they do, but doesn't mean they're on the sideline complaining about it when the cameras come zooming in. I thought it was AJ Brown's very good.
Yes.
When he talks, I mean, he's about as honest as he can be, in my opinion. And he really cleared the air. I mean, he talked for almost 15 minutes yesterday, right? I mean, he was, and he said a lot of good things. And that's, just one of many good things he said is, hey, I'm not complaining about, throw me the ball when I'm on the sidelines, but I want the ball, and that's fine.
All these niceties about AJ Brown, I feel I need to balance the scale. He's the best wide receiver the Eagles have ever had. All apologies to Mike Quick and Terrell Owens and anyone else. I think AJ Brown's seasons have been the best ever in Eagles history. And he is a straight shooter and a good dude. And he doesn't lie, and he doesn't cover anybody else's butt, which is something he should be applauded for. His attitude of, I want the ball, I want it more. Forget 105, 106, bring it to me. Like that too. You got to be able to control your behavior. Going off on a sideline doesn't work. Refusing to talk after the fact doesn't work. Making your teammates that you then have to apologize to because they've got to answer questions about you because you won't answer your own questions. Does his greatness give him a pass on that other stuff? Is that what I guess I'm asking both of you guys?
Yeah, I think what's he, 27 years old? I mean, he's still fairly young, right? I mean, I give him a pass. I thought it was pretty big that he apologized, and I was thinking to myself, would I want an apology if I was a player? Would I care that much that the guy's not talking and I have to answer a couple questions about him? Probably not. It wouldn't matter to me if he apologized or not, because I know the AJ Brown. I'm in that locker room every day, and I'm speaking as a player now. I don't need to hear him say I'm sorry for that. And yet he did take it upon himself to say I'm sorry, and I give him credit for that. And yeah, you could say, well, hey, he should talk after every game. Listen, a lot of players don't talk after games or in the locker room. Jason Peters never talked to us until after a game. We're starting to see Fletcher Cox not talk to us, not even after a game. So players do this, more often than we see or realize. And I don't fault AJ for that at all. He's still kind of growing into a role as a captain, as a leader, and I give him credit for apologizing.
I mean, I'm just throwing in, Jody. I mean, this is one of the best players the Eagles have ever had. Ed and I do that top 25 list every year coming into the season, after the season. I had AJ number 2 behind Lane Johnson on the best 25 Eagles, the best pure football players. Right now, I have him number 1. He's the best pure football player on the Eagles. We had Marcus Hayes on the show, and AJ wanted to talk to Marcus, by the way, yesterday. But we had Marcus on the show yesterday, and he called him the best player since Reggie White in Philadelphia Eagles history. And I started thinking, he might be. Brian Dawkins, maybe. They don't have players like this. So yeah, if you have to put up with some idiosyncrasies, whatever you want to call it, whatever adjective you want to use, yeah, put up with it. This is a team that didn't have a 600-yard receiver for 2 consecutive years.
Yeah.
Now you got a guy cracking 1,400 for 2 consecutive years. Deal with it. If you're the Eagles, that's how I feel, Ed.
I don't disagree with that.
Absolutely. I mean, his numbers, you mentioned the 1,400. He could go over 1,500 this Sunday. Had 1,496 last year. He's 50 yards away from, topping that. I think he gets it. 42 career touchdowns, 5 years playing in the league. I mean, he's on a Hall of Fame trajectory here. And you're right. You put up with whatever comes along with that. And really, it's not that much, to be honest.
All right, Eddie Kratz, I'll take you down a road that John and I have been down for the last couple of days, that we're both kind of chagrined that that's the fact. We deal with hypotheticals all the time. Maybe I deal with them more than anybody else because that's what I enjoy doing. And I think a percentage of fans like it. Others hate it with a passion. How bad is it going to have to get for Nick Sirianni to lose his job?
Well, I listen, to me, when you see a head coach like Doug Peterson get fired after 3 years, you have to wonder, like, are Lurie and Roseman going to be happy with the way this season ended? I would think not, obviously. So I think Sirianni probably has to come to them with some kind of an idea of how to turn this thing around in the offseason, because they're not going to go to the Super Bowl this year. And, we're seeing how hard it is to get back. But I think he has to come up with an idea of how to set things right. And if that means, cleaning house with your coaching staff, already they're going to go in search of a defensive coordinator. But I think he's probably got another year anyway to turn this thing around. But if things don't get turned around next year, he
you think, give me the percentage chance he gets fired this offseason.
Maybe 2%. Very small percentage, maybe even lower than that. I think just based on what he's done, he's the only coach to have taken this team in his first 3 years on the job to the playoffs. I mean, there's something to be said for that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, had the Eagles won 2 games, had they been 11-5, what are they, 11-5 right now? Had they been 11-5, I mean, that's a good record. It's just how they got here after being 10-1. You know, if they would have been, you know, if they would have lost a couple early and then won some and then lost another game here or there, that'd probably be okay. But it's just the way things have kind of gone off the rails here. And now he's faced with adversity, and we'll see if he can turn it around. But I think, he'll be back next year for sure. But I think the leash is a little bit shorter.
Yeah, and I still think, here's how I describe it, Ed. I still think it's 0% that the Eagles would want to fire Nick Sirianni. However, I'm like you. I got to place it at a little bit that he doesn't return simply because we went through the Doug Peterson era. And if Jeffrey Lurie and Howie Roseman go to Nick and say, all right, you got to gut this defensive coaching staff, because we know when you don't meet expectations here, there are scapegoats. And we already had one. Sean Desai still in the building, but he's a lame duck. He's going to be gone. If he says, we're going to gut the defensive coaching staff and we're going to pick the new defensive coaching staff, and Nick doesn't get to approve it or have his say over it, and then he gets angry over that, I think that's the way it can go sideways. But the Eagles are not going to say, we're going to fire Nick Sirianni.
Right. And that's what upset Doug Peterson was.
Yes.
He wasn't given that power to pick his staff. And listen, I think Nick would be okay with it. I really do. I think, okay, you know, bring in who you want and we'll make it work. And you have to be careful too, because, you know, the Eagles are playing a lot of young guys in this system with DK McDonald as your DB coach. You know, you have Ringo, Ricks, Brown. They're all, you know, playing within the system. So you have to be careful, you know, who you're going to clean house, who you're going to kick out. The linebacker play, is that personnel or is that, you know, DK Elliott? You know, the linebackers are just subpar. I mean, personnel wise. So, yeah, you'll probably get rid of some guys, but you have to be careful who you get rid of, because this defense is kind of growing with the young guys. And I think you're going to see even more of Kelly Ringo and Eli Ricks next year if the Eagles choose or try to move on from a James Bradbury. I doubt they move on from Slay, but who knows? But I think you're going to see more young guys. So do you want a new guy coming in to coach these guys in his way of doing things, or do you want to keep growing with what you have on the staff and with these young players?
Well, here's the reason why I don't think it'll happen the way John's putting it out there. Hypothetically, is all John's saying. He moved on from Denard Wilson, if you believe it. And we asked Marcus about this earlier this week. He thinks it was, Sirianni just said, no, Denard, since I'm not going to make it a defense coordinator, I'm going to let you go. And he did. He threw Sean Desai under the bus. Really? This guy needs to be at 8-1. He took away third down responsibilities from him. Doug's problem was he was overly loyal. Once you became part of Doug's inner circle, God forbid anyone tell him to change anybody in his inner circle. I don't get that feeling from Sirianni. I don't think he's the kind of guy who's going to die on that hill for somebody else.
I think he'd die on the hill for Kevin Patullo. I think he'd die on the hill for certain guys.
Who's the defensive coach he'd die on the hill for this year, John?
No, probably not. Probably wouldn't.
There you go. That's
but there are guys.
Maybe Tracy Rocker. Maybe Tracy Rocker. Maybe he dies. Hey, I think he died on the hill for Michael Clay last year when the special teams was under fire. You know, he refused to move on from Mike Clay. I mean, he kind of died on that hill.
There are certain guys he would protect, and certain guys he probably wouldn't. And most of them he wouldn't are on the defensive side. I think that's fair to say. But anytime you start what, if you want to call it meddling, we've had this discussion because we went through it with Doug Peterson, and Howie and Jeffrey are going to be involved when the expectations aren't met. And obviously the expectations aren't met, but I look at this team moving forward. Here's what I say, Ed. Despite all the talk about the offense, and we know the headlines, still a pretty good offense. Top 10 in most major categories, number 2 in third down offense, number 1 in fourth down offense, 8th overall, 7th in points. Still pretty good. You can win with that. Maybe the style points aren't there all the time, but you can win with it. They can't win with this defense. My question is, does the return of Darius Slay, whenever that is, and that means less Ringo, less Ricks, who are young players getting better, but they're probably not ready right now. Zach Cunningham gets back. That means less Shaq Leonard, less Ben Van Sumeren. Avonte Maddox, who played terribly last week, and he's banged up again. But if he starts to get the rust off, are those 3 personnel changes enough to get the Eagles from bottom 5 defense to okay? Because that, I think, is the upside. It's just okay.
Yeah, I don't think so. I mean, I think this defense, is what it is. And, I don't think it was really good when those guys played. I mean, their pass defense has been lacking all season long. And, was that Sean Desai's fault? I mean, Sirianni seemed to think it was. And Matt Patricia's kind of been a bit of a disaster himself, right? They've given up 68 points in the second half of the last 3 games. They've had leads at halftime in these last 3 games, and they've given up 68 points in the second half. I mean, I don't think Maddox was on the field for one of those games, and I don't think these guys are going to help. I mean, I think this defense is what it is. I think it's a little worn out maybe. Up front, you're playing, Brandon Graham probably more than he should be playing out of necessity. Fletcher Cox, he's had some good games, but he's been a little inconsistent these last couple of weeks. I think it's just a worn-out defense, and I don't think Slay at 33 now or 32. However,
just turned 33 this week.
33. I mean, I don't think he's going to be that much of a difference maker. We saw him when he was in there, and he played okay, about the same as he played last year, which was pretty good. But he's not going to make a difference. Maddox, we saw, didn't make a difference. Zach Cunningham was a guy they signed in the summer. I mean, he's a stopgap guy. Yeah, he hits and he tackles and this and that, but he's not a top flight linebacker. He is what he is at this point in his career. The Eagles need to go out and find somebody that they can bring in and man these positions that are better than what they have.
Right, but that's 2024, and we got to get through 2023 first.
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so here's the question after you 2 guys, because you could answer. You're there. I'm not. Any defensive players over the last several weeks off the record say, yeah, what was done to Sean Desai is just flat out wrong. We suck. We're not playing. We're not getting it done. It wasn't Sean's fault. Why they did them? Is there any disagreement or remorse that they cost their coach's job? And does it continue to be there because they've gone down this unconventional road of, hey, you're still the defensive coordinator in name only, and you can eat all the sandwiches you want up with Ed Kratz in the press box during halftime, but you're not actually going to be calling any plays here, big guy. I just think they've handled this thing so wrong across the board. Do any of the guys on the defense feel that way?
Well, I would say before Ed, off the record. So
I'm not asking you to name names, but I'm just asking.
But I would say
guys feel that way.
I would point to AJ Brown, which has nothing to do with the defense, and what AJ said yesterday. None of the coaches have cleats on. I would say I would lean on that. I don't think it's Sean Desai's fault. My personal, they're limited defensively. Personnel-wise, they're limited, as Ed pointed out. They're just not good on defense, and they're not going to be good with Sean Desai or Matt Patricia, or if you want to fire Matt Patricia this week and let DK McDonald call the plays, or you want to bring somebody in, or Vic Fangio gets fired in Miami, you want to bring him in, they're still going to be bad. That would be my take on it.
Yeah, I agree. You can't, listen, I've talked to some of the defensive players, and they hate to see Sean Desai lose his job. They like Sean Desai. I think he's a good guy. Was he a little inexperienced? Did they have some lack of trust in what he was asking them to do? I think so. But, it's water under the bridge at this point. You have to move on with Patricia. And, he's got this resume that so far just hasn't matched up with what we've seen these last 3 games that he's been in charge with. And, the players have to live with that, because like AJ said, it's the players that have to go out and execute, and the players weren't doing that. And, it reaches a point where, like BG's too old, I think. He's not going to come back. And Fletch, I'm not sure he's going to come back. So, you have to start remaking this defense a little bit, add some speed, add some youth. And, I think Desai was kind of the victim of that. And it was curious to hear Patricia, when he spoke to us earlier this week, say that he's got to do a better job in series. These long drives that the Cardinals were going on, he wasn't quick enough to make adjustments, which is surprising that he's been in this league for so long. He didn't make adjustments. So I'm thinking, well, what's Sean Desai doing up in the press box? Isn't he supposed to be helping you in the headset, saying, hey, we got to try this because whatever you're doing isn't working? What is his role exactly? I don't really think he has a role.
No,
he's just kind of the figurehead, and he's going to be gone. And I haven't even seen him we don't get to watch a lot of practices during the week, but I haven't even seen him the last couple of weeks on the field.
Well, I think in Sean's defense, we were all excited to see the omelet guy, Ed. So he was probably excited as well.
Yeah.
Didn't get up to the window early enough to see Sean Desai come out and then disappear again. Shame on you. Shame on you, omelet men. Do your job. Don't be eating omelets. They've so mishandled this. It's
I said,
should have fired him. He shouldn't be there. But
right. I mean, Patricia's talking about not making adjustments, and I'm like, well, that's what the size there. Aren't you guys supposed to be collaborating? And this shouldn't happen. That you're still calling the same stuff on this long drive that you can't stop. What's Sean doing? Maybe he's at the omelet bar. Maybe we need to do a better job looking around when we're in line at the omelet bar. Maybe Sean's next to us.
I know DeCecco would have told us if it was there, because he's posted up. He's posted up at the omelet bar at Kratz.
All right, so Ed Kratz, I need one last question. I know we got to let you go. Give me Sam Howell's numbers. Give me good news. Come on, jump on that head. You've been a Sam Howell guy all year. You've been taking. I had to bend over backwards and tell. He's better than I thought. How Ed Kratz was right. Sam can play a little bit, just a little bit. That's all it is. But tell me he's got one more game in him this week against the Cowboys, Eddie.
No, I don't think so. I think the Cowboys smell blood in the water, and they're going to find a way to beat Sam Howell down. They're going to sack him a few times. Hey, listen, that team is not very good, the Commanders. They didn't get a single player on the Pro Bowl team. And I know there's snubs and this and that, and the Pro Bowl doesn't mean as much. It still means a lot to the guys. But Washington didn't even have a Pro Bowl player. So, you want to pin it on Sam Howell. That team just needs to be rebuilt, man. They're just not.
And they will. Josh Harris will, new coach, probably a new quarterback. They're gonna rebuild the whole thing. At Kratz E on X, Twitter, SI.com/NFL/Eagles. Make sure you read them every day there. All right. We just talked about Sean Desai. So long term, does that hurt Nick Sirianni with potential or the Eagles organization? In other words, do other potential defensive coordinators look at this and say, well, you're not even going to give this guy a season? Does that affect their ability to recruit others, or you just put an extra zero on the paycheck? And
no, I don't think it hurts. Listen, there's only 32 defensive coordinators in the NFL, and if you're a position coach, you're going to want your shot, and you're going to be egotistical enough to think, hey, I'm better than Sean Desai. I'm going to come in and I'm going to last. I'm going to be the guy that's going to turn this thing around. I mean, the league's full of those guys. So I don't think it hurts at all. And listen, the track record isn't all that bad. You had Jonathan Gannon here, who turned that job into a head coaching position. So, it's not a terrible spot. Yeah, okay, maybe they screwed up on hiring Desai, and I know there's a lot of talk that he came along late in the hiring process. The Eagles didn't hire their DC until a lot of guys were off the market. But I don't think a coach looking at this job from the outside, an assistant coach, is going to say, hey, I don't want to go there because they're not going to give me any time. No, I don't think it's going to work like that.
Wow, that's a great question, John. And now you got me thinking. I'm going to have to come up with the perfect guy who could get a defensive coordinator position elsewhere, or is already in a defensive coordinator position where he is, but the Eagles say that they can't talk to him. Won't I? That's a good debatable point. I'm going to have to give some thought. I hadn't even thought about that. I'm going to have to give some thought to that. Good answer by you, Ed Kratz, which is always what we get when we punch Ed Kratz up. Good answers. The Penn Grove Monster. Ed Kratz here with us on Birds 365.
Penn Ridge.
Did I say Penn Grove?
Yeah, Penn Ridge.
Where the hell is Penn Ridge?
Bucks County, just outside of Doylestown.
Penn Grove is South Jersey, right? I think it's over here in South Jersey.
You have to talk to Ruben about that. Ruben knows every high school in the tri-state area.
Really?
I'm not as well versed on the
Penn Ridge in Bucks County. I'm sorry, I misidentified the killers.
No problem.
Ed Kratz coaches. Coach, thanks for coming on with us. We'll talk to you during the playoff run.
Thanks,
right,
Ed.
Thanks, guys.
Eddie Kratz, Sports Illustrated, here with us on Birds 365. All right, Johnny Mac coming back. We got one more segment to go. Don't even think about streaming out.
Any professional sports coach will tell you there's no substitution for preparation. At McMullen Associates, that is a tenet by which we live. We prepare from day one for victory. Anything less is not acceptable.
Go passionately. Go fearlessly. Go confidently.
Go Birds!
Go confidently towards your goals with First Trust, Philly's hometown bank for nearly 90 years, and the official bank of the Philadelphia Eagles. We're focused on getting you over the goal line. So go with conviction, go with trust,
Go Birds!
and go forward with us by your side. First Trust Bank, the official bank of Philadelphia dreams. Oh, and go Birds.
Underdog Fantasy has a way for you to play alongside your favorite football team all season long with their fantasy pick'em game. You pick between 2 to 5 players, select whether they'll go higher or lower on one of their stats, then do what you usually do on a Sunday, watch the games. You can win up to 20 times your money in a single game by going 5 for 5. It's a fantasy game, and the Sports Betting Show wants you to get involved. Go to UnderdogFantasy.com. When you sign up, use the promo code WIN, and Underdog will double your first deposit up to $100. That's UnderdogFantasy.com. Use the promo code WIN.
EAGLES, Eagles.
All right, run out of time on a Thursday edition of Birds 365. Let's end on a high note. Wink, wink, nod, nod, sarcasm. The coach mentioned it several times over the last 8 weeks, 10 weeks, whatever, when Britton Covey got off to a good start. He started lobbying for Britton Covey to make the Pro Bowl as the best punt returner in the NFL. And I can buy into what the coach is saying, that he might be the best punt returner. Covey did not make the Pro Bowl. Rashid, the kid from the Rams, did.
Shaheed, Saints.
Saints. He both returns punts and kickoffs.
Yes.
And, oh, by the way, plays from the line of scrimmage, too. So they get a lot out of him. Covey doesn't really. I know he had one ball thrown his way in a game 2 weeks ago, whatever, but we know Britton, he's a punt returner, what he is. Did the coach do him dirty by not putting him back for kickoffs this year, Johnny Mac?
No, I think those are, and that you're right. I mean, that's why Keyshawn Nixon, I would say, from Green Bay as well. That's why those guys are a little bit better or a little bit more regarded, because they can do both. But there are different traits to being a kickoff returner and a punt returner. Darren Sproles, perfect example of this as well. Great, one of the best punt returners of all time. Wasn't a kickoff returner by and large. So yeah, I mean, he's not a kickoff returner, so I don't think he did him dirty at all.
Well, here's the reason I think I'm at least eligible to ask the question. Boston Scott's a kickoff returner?
Not a great one, but he's the best one the Eagles have.
You don't think Cubby can be as good?
No. Kickoff returns is about, making that burst guy, breaking the tackle, and having long speed. So what you really want, and I always bring him up, Cordarrelle Patterson, best kickoff returner of all time, in my estimation. Very powerful, breaks that burst tackle, and then bang, he's got the long speed. Punt returners are more about the short area quickness, got to make the first, second guy miss, and then get going. So guys who can do both, like Nixon, to me, is the best. He hasn't had a great season, but he's the best returner in football, and he can do both. Shaheed can do both. But there aren't a lot of guys who do both. They're two kind of different traits to have.
I agree with you, but it is we've got examples of guys who can do both, so it can be done.
Oh yeah,
you just
Evan Hester, probably the greatest of all time, and he might even go to the Hall of Fame. But like Cordarrelle, he can't return punts. Like, he's not a punt returner. It's kind of difficult. But so guys who can do it, give them a lot of credit.
They deserve the Pro Bowl nods that they got. All right, brother, is tomorrow a off the record day, or you're on your usual schedule?
It is, but I'm gonna be here for the whole show because they kicked it back an hour. So
okay, good.
So, and we're gonna have Chris Franklin as well. So he's gotta bail out and go down with me.
Sounds tomorrow. Good. You'll both be out by 10 o'clock. You'll both be down talking to Sirianni. We'll both be, you and I, back here on Birds 365 in 2 and 2.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.